God is moving. We're so excited with all the things that God has been doing through this summer, and as we get ready for the fall season, what we believe God's about to do. But as you already heard, today's going to be an exciting day. If you want to stick around after the service at 12:30, we have an ordination service for our resident Tristan Brophy. We will be ordaining into the ministry. So make sure you stick around and hang out for that service that starts at 12:30 today. As we kind of come full circle on this message series with Abraham, we're coming down to the wire of his life. And one thing as we get to this moment, we see as we reflect back on our life, what was, what could have been, and how things all played out. You know, I think like Abraham, so often we head out on the endeavors of our own journeys with high expectations, high hopes, ambitions, things we want to achieve, things we want to go after. But so often what we learn is as we get to these different stages, we look back and it's like, well, was it really what I thought it was going to be? Because life is full of highs and lows, good days and bad days. And that's exactly what we see with Abraham. Abraham's journey was full of good days and a lot of hard days, a lot of trials, a lot of hardships, and a lot of things that he looks back and probably wishes, why did I have to go through that? Could I just redo that stage of my journey? And what we see is we all have our hopes and our dreams and things we want to achieve. The reality of what that means, we don't always anticipate. You see, because in the journey of life, to go after what we want to achieve, it requires us to grow. And I think deep down in our desires to achieve great things and to become great people and have great ambitions, we want to grow. But on the surface, that sounds amazing, but once we realize what that means, it becomes a little bit more difficult and hard. Because in order to grow, what that means is that we have a life full of change. Growth always requires change. And I think oftentimes we miss out on the ability to grow because of our reluctance to change and to take those steps. And because the reason why we have that reluctance to change is because we know deep down what change brings. Change brings pain. In other words, in order to grow, there's a requirement of pain. There's no way to get around that. In order to move forward with what we want to achieve in life, to follow Jesus, to become successful in whatever that is for our journey, it requires growth. With growth equals change, which means change equals pain, which means if I want to grow and to become achieve great things, I have to walk through pain. And because of that reason, so many times we find ourselves kind of closing the door that say, you know what? I don't need that. And we fail to see what God wants to do in our lives. We fail to see how God's faithfulness wants to come through our faithfulness in our journey. That's what we see with Abraham's journey. As we kind of reflect back on everything that was through his life, through his journey, we see a man that was faithful to the God he served because he trusted in the faithfulness of God, which meant every day I'm going to seek you and follow you, but as I follow you, I'm going to have to grow and change, and that's going to require some pain. But in the pain, we see God. We see God at work. We see the reality of who he is and the reality of his faithfulness. As we come down to the conclusion of Abraham's journey, we recognize not only was his days full of good days and bad days, but we run into a not so great day. You see, Genesis 23 is all about the reality of his wife's death. In Genesis 23, Sarah dies. And she's gone. And what Genesis 23 is all about is the mourning of her death. And we don't have time to get through all of that in this sermon today. But I do want to pause for just a moment and just recognize the reality that some here today may be grieving. Some of you today may be going through some hard times. Because the hard thing with life is when we have a loss of life. And if that's you, if you're struggling today with grieving and hardships and difficulties, I just want you to know you're not alone. We here at Impact are with you. What we see in Genesis 23 is how Abraham worked through the mourning process, through the grieving process, and that's a journey. And I want you to know that we here at Impact, if you're grieving, if you're struggling with the loss of someone you loved, whether it's recent or a time ago, we want to walk with you. We want to support you. We want to be by your side. But as we continue on in Abraham's story, we come to Genesis 24. And there in Genesis 24, the very first sentence, the very first verse is so profound with these words. Abraham was now very old, and the Lord blessed him in every way. And this verse is like the definition of his life, is the reality of God at work in this very moment. We see too those, I like to call, say what phrases of how God is working, of what God is doing in this moment. The first phrase is, excuse me, Abraham was now very old. You know what that really is saying? Abraham is coming to the realization that his days are numbered. His journey is about over. And then what? You know, next week we're going to be spending, as we wrap up this whole series, we're going to be talking about that final stage and the importance of that final stage. We're calling the gun lap. You know, that final lap around. How are you going to use that gun lap well? And what are you going to do to make those moments count? Because even in those moments, there's importance, there's value, there's purpose. And that's what we see with Abraham's life and his journey. He is now nearing his death, and he's coming to recognition that my days are numbered. So what am I going to do? How am I going to pass on the torch to the next generation? And I can't help but think that how many times we overlook the reality of that one phrase. Now, you may not be old in that sense. Abraham was quite old, a few hundred years, hundred some years old. But I think the lesson here, the principle here, is the recognition that every one of us, our days are numbered. We only have so many days that we're going to wake up to conquer. We're only having so many days where we have opportunities. And so the question there is, in those moments, in those days, how are you achieving those opportunities? How are you chasing those things? How are you making every moment count? Because it matters. We don't have a guarantee for tomorrow. All we have is a guarantee for right now. And are we making that moment count? And how are we passing on the legacy of God's kingdom working through us to others? And the next thing we see here, the say what, is the Lord blessed him in every way. Now we look at that and I would think, as I read this, wait a minute, as I examine his life, there's a lot of bad days. There are a lot of bad days where we question, God, were you really there? Was your goodness really evident? And Abraham's life was full of pain, full of trials, full of hardships. And I look at his journey and I examine my own life and I see myself in that same position so often. And in those moments, maybe you're like me, we begin to allow our human nature to get the best of us, where we begin to question God. We question God's goodness. We question whether God is truly there. We question, God, are you good? Where are your blessings? And as we look at Abraham's life, and God blessed him in every way. Okay, wait, so you called him out of his homeland to walk as a vagabond for his entire life, never truly having a home, but even through that, God blessed him. He was surrounded by evil and wars and difficulties. And even in those seasons, God blessed him. He was asked to slay his son, to put his very son on the altar that he's been waiting for 100 years. And even in that moment, God blessed him. And even through the conflict of his own poor choices, God blessed him. You know, theologian Charles Spurgeon put it this way: perhaps if his life had been without troubles, that sentence would not have been true. You know what that says? What we see in the reality of Abraham's life, that is, trials give sight to God's blessings. So often I think we expect God to bless us on the good days, and we think, well, if my life is good, then God's blessing me. But if my life's not going well, if things aren't going well today, then where is God? But the reality is, so often on those good days, we assume it's all about us. We assume we created the success of this day, but it's through the hardships and the trials when we begin to really see God's goodness, his faithfulness, and how he's always there. How he's always right by our side. And that's exactly what God taught Abraham every step of the way. In the difficult days, you see that I am the faithful God. When this world lets you down, you will realize I am still your faithful God. So seek me. Follow me. Walk with me. So here Abraham is, recognizing my days are numbered. I don't have many left. Now what? And God blessed me every step of the way. So how am I passing that on? And that's when we get to the rest of chapter 20 of Genesis 24. I encourage you to read this as we through this week, as we go through it fairly quickly this morning. But here, from this moment on, Abraham realized, okay, I got to make this moment count. I got to pass on my legacy of God's goodness, of God's blessings, of God's faithfulness, and his covenant in my life to the next generation. How he's going to bless me for all future generations through me. So he called his senior servant in. His senior advisor, senior servant came in, and Abraham made an oath with him. And he clearly defined what is now the mission. The mission is for you, senior servant guy, to go find a wife for my son Isaac in my homeland, where we came from. And I want you to find a wife for my son, because the covenant is going to go through him. My days are numbered. I don't even know if I'm going to make it through this mission. So you got to go and do this. I'm going to define it very clearly. You find her and you bring her back to Isaac in this country. Isaac cannot leave this area. You know why? Because God blessed Isaac to be the one to carry out the covenant in the promised land, the land that he blessed to us. And so he's never left this land. He cannot leave this land. He has to stay here. The covenant is for him, not Ishmael. Abraham's recognizing, boy, if Isaac left the land, Ishmael's going to try to come in. There's going to be conflict, so I can't allow that to happen. He's got to stay here. You bring her back. Go find her. And if you find her, if God leads you to that woman, and she decides and declines and rejects the opportunity to come here, that she does not want to leave her homeland, she wants to stay there, then you come back and leave her there. It would be better for Isaac to not marry than to leave this homeland. There's a value in this lesson that Abraham is signing off here. See, the principle is what's the most important thing. The principle is the reality of God's covenant to us that's happening here, how God is blessing us. And yeah, it would be good for him to have a wife, but listen, the best thing is the covenant, and we cannot sidestep the covenant. We have to stay with the covenant. And so if his wife comes, the blessings will come through. But if she chooses not to, you know what? If the best thing is here in the covenant of God. And so we will stay here and chase him, and God's faithfulness will come through. He will work. And here's the lesson in this principle. I fear too often in our journey and in our lives, what tends to happen is God says, here is what I have for you. Seeking my kingdom, what is best for you. Now, there may be some good things over here. There may be some nice things over here. But if you have to walk away from this to chase this, you're missing the best thing. And too often what tends to happen is we fail to focus on the best and chase after a lot of good things that sidesteps what God wants to do in our lives. And so what God is saying, do not sidestep my covenant with you, the seeking of my kingdom, for other things that could be good. Because guess what? You're not building this. I am. And if you keep sidestepping me, it's going to fall apart. It's going to fall apart because all of a sudden what happens is you're now building success based upon you and what you want to build for your life versus my kingdom and my covenant. That's the principle that Abraham was focusing on in this moment in Genesis 24. So he said this to his servant, you go find that wife, but you do not sidestep the principle. If she determines that she is unwilling to leave her homeland, she's comfortable there, she wants to stay there, then you come back empty-handed because it's better for Isaac to be alone and in the covenant than running towards a life that he could build here but escaping the covenant. And so the servant left. And he took with him 10 camels and all types of goods that Abraham had. He basically took all these riches to showcase, hey, I come from a master who God richly blessed, and we have a lot of great things. And he made his way to the town of Nahor and had his camels kneel down at the well outside the city, and it was evening time. And this was the location and the time that the women of the city would come out to draw water for their households. So he just sat there and waited, and before he did anything, Genesis 24, verse 12, he prayed. Here's the servant's prayer. Lord God of my master Abraham, make me successful today and show kindness to my master Abraham. See, I am standing beside this spring, and the daughters of the townspeople are coming out to draw water. May it be that when I say to a young woman, please let down your jar that I may drink, and she says drink, and I'll water your camels too, I'll let her be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac. And by this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. See the principle here? Before anything, the servant prayed. Before anything he did, he sought after God, that God would bring him his success through, did you catch it? His faithfulness. And that through the seeking of God's faithfulness that would bring him success in this journey, that through the success, it would not be about, look what I did, look what I built. No, the focus would be all about the goodness of God. Look how God is good. Look how God has come through. Look at God's kindness. Look at his love. Look at his faithfulness. In other words, the servant is saying here in this moment, God, you are the priority. And all success is from you and for you. So God, may you open those doors. And my question for you based upon this principle, in all of your life endeavors, how often do you seek first God and his kingdom? How often do you stop before you chase the day and say, God, this day is because of you and for you. Make this day successful so that through this day, through my efforts, through the success of my day, everybody can see you. Everybody will see your faithfulness. Jesus himself said in Matthew 6, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Seek first his kingdom, God's kingdom. The servant sought after God. He asked God, make me successful that you may be glorified, that people may see you, that people will see your kindness and your faithfulness. And my big question for you to wrestle with today, friends, in your life endeavors, do you seek success for yourself? Or do you seek success for God's glory to be revealed? Are you trying to build your kingdom or his kingdom? Are you focused on the life you're trying to build for yourself or the life that he has for you? You know, this past week, Elon Musk was in an interview. And in this interview, he was quoted as saying, classifying himself as a cultural Christian. In other words, what Elon Musk said is, I really like Jesus. I think he's a great teacher and has a lot of great insight. In fact, I think his teachings are really good for the culture and can really be beneficial for me and the culture if everybody would follow the teachings of Jesus. But then when asked, will you make him Lord and Savior? Nope. What he said was, you know what? He said, I'm okay with going to hell because most of everybody is going there anyways. And in that moment, he realized and recognized, missed out on the reality of how big this is, what the statement he just made, what eternity's all about. And my fear is, friends, so often in our lives, in our culture, we have become cultural Christians. We become so apathetic with the environment around us. We're simply satisfied with just saying, hey, I like Jesus, I think his teachings are cool, and something we should apply to our lives, but we'll stop there. And my friends, we will never experience the full faithfulness and blessings of God by sidestepping his statements and saying, you are Lord of my life. Because Abraham said, listen, don't sidestep the principle. Don't chase things that may be good and miss what is best. And if Jesus' teachings are good, shouldn't all of his teachings be good? If you think just some of his statements are good for a better life, then I'm going to challenge you to really consider all of his statements are actually good for your whole life. When Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, the only way to the Father. In other words, it's all through him. It's all through his kingdom. All of his teachings are relevant. And my friends, hear me clearly. Jesus did not come and die to make your life endeavors good, to make your life successful. He came to guide us to the experience of good life that's only found through him. You can follow his teachings, but completely miss out on the reality of his blessings and his goodness in your life. Don't allow that to happen. You see, my friends, God's goodness is revealed when his kingdom is the priority in everything we do. You want to experience his blessings and his faithfulness just like Abraham? His goodness is revealed when we make his kingdom the priority in everything. You see, Abraham's journey was all about, God, you are my everything. So when I make you my everything, that first statement, 24 verse 1, in every way you blessed me. That Paul wrote about how God blesses, how God's working for good things for all those who seek him. In other words, when we seek him, God's working for us. And this is what we see here in this story as we continue on with his servant. How God's goodness, his faithfulness, and his kindness came through. And how his power broke through from the heavens to answer these prayers. And in verse 15 of Genesis 24, everything came together. It says there, before the servant had finished praying. Listen to this. Before he had finished praying. Did you hear me? Before he had finished praying, look what happened. Rebekah came with her jar on her shoulder. She was the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, who was the wife of Abraham's brother, Nahor. Do you see what just happened here? You see, the servant went on a mission, and he sought after God, and God was already bringing the victory. Even before he was praying, God was working. My friends, hear this. Today, right now, for those who seek him, God is working for you. Even before you kneel down to pray, God is working for you. Even before you think about that prayer, God is working for you. For those who seek him, God is coming through with his faithfulness. God is always good. And what Abraham saw throughout his whole journey, now that he is an old man and his days are numbered, and how God blessed him every step of the way. Because every step of the way, Abraham chased this God. My friends, don't stop chasing him and seeking him in everything you do. Because even before we seek him, God is working on our behalf. God is working for you. The prophet Isaiah even highlighted this in Isaiah 65, verse 24. Before they call, I will answer. And while they are still speaking, I will hear. My friends, in those days when things seem to be hard and difficult, you seek God and he hears you. He knows you. And he loves you. And he's working for you, not to make you successful generally, although those do come. What he's working is that through your faithfulness, he reveals the fact that he is a faithful God and that he is good. And that's why Jesus said, seek first my kingdom and my righteousness in all ways. The servant, I can only imagine, opened his eyes and was completely surprised. I even finished the sentence and there she is, the answer to our prayer. There she is. This is God's faithfulness coming through. And the servant wanted to see her character and if this is truly God working. In verse 17 through 21, the servant hurried to meet her and said, please give me a little water from your jar. Drink, my lord, she said, and quickly lowered the jar to her hands and gave him a drink. And after she had given him a drink, she said, I'll draw water for your camels too, until they have enough to drink. And so she quickly emptied her jar into the trough, ran back to the well, and drew some more water, and drew enough for all the camels. And without saying a word, the man watched her closely to learn whether or not the Lord had made his journey successful. Do you see that last line? The servant was like, I think this is the answer. God's working, and I'm going to watch and make sure that this is truly God at work. This is truly God working. He was so vigilant on that and attentive for the confirmation of God working. And here's the principle in this, my friends. There are so many influences and speakers out there today, and so many people saying different things, and so many voices out there that I think we struggle sometimes and we fail to truly examine things. The Bible says to test the spirits and know that they are God. And we tend to be so quick to just believe anything that looks good that we fail to examine. Is this God really coming through? Is this God working? And how do we know that? Well, first of all, there's the written word. God will never contradict himself. And secondly, God never fails. And so if you ever see a contradiction or a failure in the answer, then it's probably not God. And you need to start asking, okay, God, what is this? What does this look like? And that's what the servant did. God, I want confirmation that you are coming through, that this is truly you, and not just, hey, this looks like a really good answer, let's run with it. No, God, I want to know this is you. I want to see her character. I want to see how you are coming through. And once all the signs confirmed, the servant was excited, and he began to give Rebekah gifts to highlight Abraham and God's faithfulness through Abraham and the sign of the generosity and the wealth of his master. Rebekah then, you can read about this through Genesis 24. Rebekah took the servant to her brother's house, and where they showed him hospitality. And as they showed him hospitality, the servant shared his story and the purpose for his visit, and that Rebekah is the one that God led to him. Rebekah and the whole household agreed, and she was brought to Isaac to be married. You know what we see through this whole story? This story is really a foreshadowing of what is to come. You see this marriage between Isaac and Rebekah is not just God's blessing us in the worldly sense, but God blessing us through his covenant. You see, this marriage between Isaac and Rebekah is really a foreshadowing of the reality of Jesus coming for his bride, the church. And how one day he's coming back for us. One day, friends, Jesus is returning. He's returning to call home his bride. He's returning to call home the church. And as I look at this story, I can't help but not see three different excuses we tend to make that could have been made by different people in the storyline. There was Abraham. Abraham was defined in verse 1 as old. In other words, it's retirement day. It's time to enjoy life. And he could have used that as an excuse to, you know what? My days are numbered. Let's just go have fun. Let's just enjoy all the blessings that God gave to me. And miss the opportunity to pass on the legacy. There's the servant. I feel the servant's excuse could have been, you know what, Abraham, I love your ambition, but that's a long journey. You might die while I'm away. I don't want to leave you. And I don't really know if this is even going to work out. So maybe we can get some confirmation before we go. And we just come up with excuses as to why we shouldn't go or why we can't go. And then there was Rebekah. Rebekah could have very easily said, you know what? Isaac sounds like a great guy. Amazing. But you know what? I'm kind of comfortable here. I don't really want to leave my home. I kind of built things here. I don't know that. So I'm going to stay. And as I examine the story and examine their lives, I see the potential of excuses that they did not make, but sometimes I make, and sometimes I think we all make, simply because maybe a little bit of that culture of Christianity has gotten the best of us. And we're more focused on trying to build our lives and our success rather than trying to chase his kingdom. And success was never about what we build in this world. Success was always about him, his kingdom, and his kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. And I got to put away my excuses that maybe I just want to enjoy life and I don't have time for anything else. I got to put away excuses that, you know what, I may not have all the answers. And you know what, I may have to take some steps of faith to see God at work because God's waiting for me to take those steps until he shows up. Or maybe, you know what, I got to start stepping out of my comfort zone because I've lived in too many days comfortable and I'm missing out on God at work. Because one day, Jesus said he's coming back for his bride. And he wants to take her home. And if I get too comfortable in this world, if I become a cultural Christian and become too comfortable in this world, I'm going to miss the opportunity when he comes back for his bride. And I don't want to miss that. I don't want to miss that day. And so what we see in this journey with Abraham throughout his life within God's providence, it is crucial that we own our responsibility. It is crucial that we realize my life is not about me trying to build my own success and my world and my kingdom. My life is all about chasing his kingdom and allowing his kingdom to flow through me. Jesus said, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. Seeking first his kingdom and what he wants for us, not the world I want to make. Seeking his righteousness, not my ways, but his ways. And all these things will be added to you. You know what these all things are? You see, Jesus was just kind of finishing up a dialogue about how we are not to worry, how he's always going to take care of us. Doesn't he take care of the birds and the fish and everything else in the world? He's going to take care of you. And don't store your treasures up in this world. It's going to be gone tomorrow. but to store up your treasures in heaven, because you can't walk away from what is best. For some things that may be good, don't forsake the best. Seek his kingdom. And when you do that, all these things of his kingdom will be given to you. Because success was never about what's in this world. Success was always him. Our attention should be on Jesus. My friends, I just want to challenge you. Maybe you've been struggling with the idea that I'm a little kind of drifting towards that cultural Christianity. I like Jesus. I mean, his teachings are good. They can really help me. But never really kind of gave him my all. I've never submitted him. I live my life more about seeking what I can build for myself rather than seeking his kingdom. And it may go okay for a while, but one day that's going to crash and burn. Don't believe me? Go ask Lot. Make today the day that you say, God, in all that I am, in all that I do, I want to seek first you. You are my mission. You are my home. You are my everything. And if that's you, you need to take that step, and you haven't really never identified, making him the priority of your life. Our leaders will be at back of the Engage Impact, and we love just to talk with you about what that journey could look like for you and pray with you and begin that journey. Because my friends, that phrase can be true for you too. That was for Abraham. When he got to the end of his life, he was old. But in all things, in every way, God blessed him. When we seek first his kingdom, God blesses. He has great things for you, but you need to seek first him. Let's pray. Father, you are a good God, and I praise you for your goodness. In this moment, may we just run towards you. Lord, help us for the times that we have become apathetic in our faith and focused on the buildings of our own kingdom and our own selves. But may we seek you. And that through that, may we experience your faithfulness and your goodness. Because you are good. It's in your name we pray. Amen.